Jack, a curious and somewhat clumsy young man, stumbled upon an old watch in his grandfather's dusty attic. The watch, though worn and seemingly ordinary, caught his attention because it was ticking backward. Intrigued, Jack put the watch on, not realizing the power it held. As soon as he did, the world around him blurred, and he found himself in a bustling 1922nd Street, surrounded by people in flapper dresses and vintage cars. Confused but fascinated, Jack tried to blend in, only to accidentally bump into a man who dropped a stack of newspapers. Apologizing profusely, Jack realized he was now in a time where his grandfather was just a young boy. The man Jack bumped into turned out to be his great-grandfather, who, suspicious of Jack's strange attire, asked him where he was from. Jack, thinking quickly, made up a story about being a traveler, which his great-grandfather surprisingly believed. As the day went on, Jack experimented with the watch, learning that twisting the dial would send him to different times and places. He visited ancient Rome, Victorian London, and even a future where flying cars zipped through the skies. In each time period, Jack had amusing mishaps like accidentally challenging a Roman gladiator to a duel or mistaking a robot in the future for a real person. Despite the dangers, Jack couldn't help but enjoy his newfound ability to time travel. However, things took a sad turn when Jack accidentally traveled to the day his grandmother passed away. He watched from afar as his younger self cried in his mother's arms, feeling a deep sadness he hadn't expected. Shaken, Jack realized that time travel wasn't just fun and games, it held the power to bring back painful memories too. He decided to be more careful with the watch, understanding that some moments in time were better left untouched. As the sun set on that sorrowful day, Jack returned to the present, vowing to use the watch wisely from now on. Little did he know, his adventures were only just beginning. Jack couldn't resist the temptation to use the watch again, despite the emotional toll it had taken on him. This time, he decided to explore the future more thoroughly, eager to see what awaited humanity. He traveled to a time where cities floated in the sky and humans had colonies on Mars. Jack marveled at the advanced technology, but he quickly found himself in a tricky situation when he was mistaken for an alien spy. Captured by the futuristic authorities, Jack tried to explain his situation, but his story only made things worse. They didn't believe he was a time traveler and decided to keep him under observation. While in custody, Jack befriended a robot named Zara, who was curious about the concept of time travel. Zara, with her logical thinking, helped Jack devise an escape plan, and together they managed to outsmart the authorities. As they fled, Jack realized that the future wasn't as perfect as it seemed. There were still conflicts, prejudices, and fears, just like in the past. This realization saddened him, as he had hoped the future would be a utopia. During their escape, Zara took Jack to a hidden location where a group of time travelers from different eras had formed a secret society. They welcomed Jack, sharing their experiences and the burden of knowing too much about the past and future. One of the time travelers, an old man named Hugo, warned Jack about the dangers of altering the timeline. Hugo revealed that he had once tried to prevent a personal tragedy, only to cause even greater pain in the process. Jack listened intently, realizing that his adventures could have unintended consequences. He promised Hugo that he would be more cautious, but deep down, he knew he couldn't resist using the watch again. As Jack prepared to leave, Zara expressed her desire to experience the past, having only known the future. Jack agreed to take her with him, hoping to show her the beauty of simpler times. They traveled to the 1960s, where they attended a rock concert, danced at a lively party, and witnessed the first moon landing. Zara was fascinated by the culture and humanity of the past, but she also noticed the struggles people faced. During their journey, Jack and Zara grew closer, forming a bond that transcended time itself. But their happiness was short-lived when they accidentally changed a small event, causing a ripple effect that altered the future. Returning to the present, Jack was horrified to find that the world had changed drastically. Technology was more advanced, but the world was also darker, colder, and filled with unrest. Blaming himself for the changes, Jack was consumed by guilt. Zara, however, reassured him that they could set things right if they carefully retraced their steps and undid the damage. Together, they embarked on a mission to restore the timeline, but Jack couldn't shake the sadness that had taken hold of him. The weight of his actions and the responsibility of time travel were becoming too much to bear. As they worked to fix the timeline, Jack made a difficult decision. He realized that to truly protect the world and those he cared about, he might have to give up the watch for good. Jack and Zara returned to the exact moment they had changed, carefully undoing their mistake. With a heavy heart, Jack watched as the timeline slowly realigned, restoring the future to its original state. Satisfied that they had fixed the damage, Jack and Zara returned to the present. However, Jack knew that his time-traveling days were coming to an end. The watch had brought him many incredible experiences, but it had also shown him the fragility of time. Zara, now understanding the complexity of human emotions and time, respected Jack's decision. She encouraged him to live his life fully in the present, without the temptation of changing the past or future. As they shared a bittersweet farewell, Jack felt a deep sadness. He had grown attached to Zara, and the thought of never seeing her again was painful. But he knew that time travelers couldn't linger in any one era for too long without risking further consequences. Zara, sensing Jack's sorrow, promised him that they would meet again someday, in some form, in some time. With that, she activated her own time travel device and disappeared, leaving Jack alone with the watch. Back in his quiet apartment, Jack stared at the watch, reflecting on all the adventures, the laughs, the thrills, and the heartaches it had brought him. He knew it was time to let go. Jack decided to hide the watch in a place where it would never be found, hoping that its power would remain dormant. As he buried it in the depths of his garden, he whispered a goodbye to the life he had lived with it. Years passed, and Jack lived a fulfilling life, filled with love, laughter, and new experiences. He often thought of Zara and the time travelers, but he never sought out the watch again. One day, as Jack sat in his garden, now old and grey, he felt a familiar presence. Turning around, he saw Zara standing there, unchanged by time, her eyes filled with warmth. Zara smiled, telling Jack that she had returned, as she promised, to say one last goodbye. Jack, with tears in his eyes, embraced her, feeling a deep sense of peace. As they parted for the final time, Zara gave Jack a small token, a pocket watch, ordinary and powerless, but a symbol of their bond. Jack accepted it with a smile, knowing that their connection would transcend time. Jack lived the rest of his days in contentment, the memories of his adventures with the time travel watch tucked away in his heart. And when he finally passed, surrounded by loved ones, the watch in his garden remained buried, a silent guardian of time.